73 other companies are joining the most bullish CEO in Bitcoin, Michael Saylor, and adopting a Bitcoin strategy. These companies have already scooped up a whopping 55 billion worth of Bitcoin. But it seems like these copycats are just getting started. Now, why do I think that these copycats are just getting started? And how high will this send Bitcoin? And just how bullish is all of this news, all of these copycats coming onto a Bitcoin standard? Well, let's dive in to the news that everybody is gawking over here because it's Q4, ladies and gentlemen. So everybody is reporting by the end of the year how much Bitcoin that they're holding, whether they're holding in treasuries, whether they're holding in ETFs, how they're holding it, etc. So this is a great website here. So shout out to bitcointreasuries.net. It shows that 73 publicly traded companies are holding Bitcoin, right? But that doesn't even, it also includes the 18 private companies that are holding Bitcoin as well. And all right, let's just make this clear. What is the biggest difference between a private and a publicly traded company? A publicly traded company needs to disclose all of their holdings, all of their assets. So this number here, although encouraging about the private companies, might not necessarily be accurate when it comes to the full amount. There could definitely be more companies holding Bitcoin than just this 18. There's 11 governments and 42 ETFs and other funds. Now, this is the juicy stuff here, right? So there's 2.9 million Bitcoin being held in different kinds of entities that have disclosed, right? So these publicly traded companies have holding nearly 600,000 Bitcoin. So 587,000 Bitcoin, give or take, at this current price of 94, basically 95,000. That equals that 55.8 billion number that I described in the intro here. So a lot of Bitcoin is being scooped up by these Saylor copycats. But like I said, I think this is just getting started because there's been a lot of publicity around these companies, and there's not a lot of, fully tracking of everything of like how beneficial it is or anything like that just yet. Simply just the publicity alone is sparking people's interest, right? We've got this tweet here from Bitcoin Magazine showing at least 60, right? I showed you how that was an undershooting number. Well, look at this here, right? So we obviously have MicroStrategy holding majority of this Bitcoin. But we've got Marathon Digital, Riot, Hut 8, all these Bitcoin mining companies. Marathon, holding about 1/10 of the Bitcoin that MicroStrategy has. But I mean, all of these scooping up Bitcoin here. We even have some at the very, very low end holding measly 15 Bitcoin. But hey, you know what? 15 Bitcoin is a start, and I think that is going to continue to ramp up here as we're coming through this year, right? Because look what we have here, right? We've got other CEOs tweeting at Michael Saylor and tweeting at these companies holding Bitcoin, right? So this is Simon Granovich. He's the Japanese CEO of Metaplanet, and they have just, quote, getting started buying Bitcoin here, right? So I think that, these companies are really seeing the benefit, and I don't think it's being fully, come to light here. And here's why, right? So, greetings, Johnny, in the chat. Happy Saturday to you as well, my friend. Thank you for always being, a loyal joiner to the chat and contributor. But we've got Metaplanet here, who has acquired 61 million to start their Bitcoin journey, right? I mean, they continued to buy 61 million, amidst their Bitcoin journey, right? So they've purchased 620 nearly Bitcoin by at the current market rates. This acquisition brings the firm's holding to nearly 1,800 Bitcoin, valued at 167 million. And their recent bond issuance, which raised nearly 9.5 billion yen, so over $60 million. And this would be, these funds would be used to expedite further Bitcoin acquisitions. Now, I think this is very interesting because we've also got a friend of the program who's very into, or who's actually an advisor to Metaplanet, Dylan LeClaire, who's helping with this strategy, right? I didn't even think to include this at the beginning. But Dylan LeClaire is very bullish on Bitcoin. Obviously, he knows, a lot of everything that is going on in the Bitcoin space. He works with Bitcoin Magazine. He's got his ear to the streets, to say the very least. And he's looking at the benefits of MicroStrategy and what that has done for its stock price. Now, it's not quite the return that we've seen from Metaplanet, right? I mean, we've seen Metaplanet spark a nearly 2,500% stock rally since adopting their Bitcoin strategy. Their recent zero interest bonds worth 4.5 billion. I mean, like, this is just absolutely insane here, right? I mean, how can you utilize the current fiat system more than by getting a zero interest bond for $4.5 billion? Right. So they have to pay this back slow and steady. Right. But they don't have to do it quickly because they don't have to worry about the interest. They don't have to worry about the Bitcoin price fluctuating up and down. They don't have to worry about the volatility of Bitcoin because they're getting all this at a zero interest rate bonds. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Right. And, in just 5 trading sessions, we see Metaplanet stock rise 51%. 51%. It's absolutely insane. They're seeing a remarkable climb push the company's year-to-date gains to astounding 2,450%, elevating its current market cap beyond the 1 billion mark. So see how beneficial that this is for a small company. Now imagine how beneficial it could be for a larger company if they do this at scale, and they don't even have to take as big of a risk. I mean, it's absolutely insane that we don't see more of these companies come along, right? After we're seeing the success of Metaplanet, they've reached an all-time high, new market cap volume. Market cap reached the 1 billion mark. And, this is going to continue, right? I mean, they're doing exactly what Michael Saylor has lined out, exactly what he's lined out, right? I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what they say here in the great US of A, right? So leveraging these zero interest bonds for Bitcoin acquisition. So like I said previously, they've been issuing zero interest bonds maturing on June 16th, 2025, that released in tranches to let the firm make strategic Bitcoin purchases with a less cost of periodic interest. Instead of getting these benefits through discounting, they will buy low and are allowed redemption against the full face value of maturity. So since May, they started this strategy in May. It hasn't even been a year, and they've accumulated more than 1,000 Bitcoin. And this is all to say, this company needed Bitcoin's rally to hit the 1 billion mark on its market cap. So very small company, and it's been able to, and in the grand scheme of things, is it been able to accumulate 1,000 Bitcoin. So, with this, Metaplanet has issued, and their plans to increase Bitcoin reserves by issuing another 5 billion more bonds via private placements. So with all this being said, I mean, I'm extremely bullish on Metaplanet and everything going forward, but I'm also extremely bullish on more companies implementing this here because, we're seeing publicly traded companies start to look at what MicroStrategy is doing. Really start to take a look, right? I mean, we even had Dave Portnoy have Michael Saylor on his Davey Day Trader Global. Granted, Dave Portnoy is a little bit different. He's a privately owned company now, but he's definitely, got his influence, to say the least, when it comes to public companies and everything else, right? I mean, he's very got his ear to the streets of everything that's going on. Very innovative and everything else. But anyway, enough about Dave. Let's look at these other, great companies, right? So we've got, obviously, MicroStrategy has a ton. we've got Marathon, we've got Galaxy Digital, which is not on the NASDAQ. But a lot of these big dogs on the NASDAQ, man. I mean, we've got Block, we've got Clean Spark, we've got a lot of these just Bitcoin mining companies, but we've also got a lot of technology companies that have come in and put on a Bitcoin standard as well. A lot of these companies are not necessarily just Bitcoin specific or anything like that, right? I mean, and I think that's the most bullish part about all of this is that it's not necessarily, Bitcoin specific companies that are going to be looking at this strategy. I think at this point in time, if you do not have a Bitcoin strategy, you're going to fall behind. Plain and simple. If there's a company that you're going to invest in, why would you invest in a company if it's going to be underperforming Bitcoin? Why would you invest in a company, that isn't looking at Bitcoin as some sort of a strategy? Why would you invest in a company that has a ton of money just sitting on the sidelines for its debt? Just, for a rainy day, just in case, right? I mean, that money is doing absolutely nothing. And I think shareholders are starting to wake up. I had a previous live stream on Amazon. Amazon shareholders are urging their board to assess at least 5% of its assets in Bitcoin. So this proposal suggests that Amazon could consider investing in Bitcoin so to protect shareholder value from inflation. Their words, not mine. They want to be protected from inflation. They're worried about inflation. Amazon shareholders are worried about inflation. So I think everybody's waking up to the fact that this is a potential issue. They need to be keeping an eye on it. But let's take a step back here, right? I mean, I think that this is going to be vital. A lot of companies are going to be looking at this, but how does this proposal look and why are they necessarily proposing it? Right, let's read it from the fine print here. MicroStrategy, which holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet, has had its stock outperform Amazon stock by 537% in the previous year. And they're not alone. Institutional and corporate Bitcoin adoption is becoming more commonplace. More public companies, such as Tesla and Block, have added Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And Amazon's second and fourth largest institutional shareholders, BlackRock and Fidelity, respectively, offer their clients a Bitcoin ETF. And the US government may form a Bitcoin strategic reserve in 2025. So it's not just the ETFs, it's accumulation of everything that's going on, right? We have Saylor whipping everybody's ass here when it comes to holding Bitcoin and just outperforming everybody in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100 now, just being the best performing stock, one of, if not the best, in the S&P 500, depending on the day, right? So everybody's starting to pay attention. But let's slow down here, right? I mean, how feasible is this? Right. So the proposal calls for Amazon board to evaluate, right? I mean, so granted, I hope this happens for Amazon, but we've seen Microsoft already evaluate or hold it to a vote, and their shareholders have leaned them towards no. So, and that was with an astounding like 99.5%. So hopefully Amazon's a little bit different. But what happens next here? And I think this is super important to highlight. So this proposal has been filed. Amazon's board of directors will now review it and decide whether to include it in Amazon's proxy statement for the upcoming annual shareholders meeting. So this proposal has not been added officially yet because they do have some time. So if this proposal is added to the proxy statement, shareholders will vote on it and at the annual meeting scheduled for April of 2025. So it's not added yet. It could be added. If it is added, it would go to a vote in April. But we're talking about it here in December. I think that is extremely bullish. There's a lot of time, folks, between now and April. That's 4 whole whopping months. And it'll probably take place in mid to late April. So, I mean, we've got about 4 months at the very least of a potential run-up, a potential change in Bitcoin, a lot of other potential things. And, we're seeing more companies start to pay attention to this very fact right here. This is the biggest fact I think that everybody is looking at, whether you're a corporate strategist or, CEO, some sort of thing, right? If you have a publicly traded company, you have to be paying attention to what Michael Saylor's doing. Because if you're not, you're falling way behind. Since adopting his Bitcoin strategy, he's had an analyzed return of 124%. Plain and simple. He's at least doubled and a quartered basically every single year since adopting this. So since adopting this, look, in August 10th of 2020, he's been doing this for 4 years. This is nearly exponential now. If you annualized return of 124%, it means you double and a quarter every single year. You're starting to reach that exit velocity. And people are starting to take notice of MicroStrategy. You know why? Because they don't want to fall behind. They want to provide their shareholders value, because if they don't, they're going to find another company that does. Plain and simple. So on top of that, right? So MicroStrategy has now joined the NASDAQ 100, and comparing the returns here, I think this is huge. Comparing the returns to Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla were 31%. The index was 15, real estate was 10, gold was 7, and bonds were -5. I mean, if you hold bonds at this point, I mean, what are you doing? I can't help you. But read this again. The Magnificent Seven, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla were 31%. 124%. It's 4 times less. I mean, it's the numbers speak for themselves at this point. I mean, you just honestly, how could you bet against Michael Saylor? Everybody's going to be looking at what he's doing. And with this recent run up, that we're seeing Bitcoin, hit like 95,000 nearly. I mean, I showed it to you guys a little bit at the beginning. This recent run up, year to date up 124%. Easy cake. Come on. I mean, it's like, if you want to really provide your shareholders value, this is the way to do it. Escape that fiat system. Get out of your own way. I mean, there's so many other things that the system has corrupted, and I think more and more people are starting to wake up to that fact. I think one of those systems is the health insurance industry. I think it's absolutely corrupt. But if I were to tell you that you do not necessarily need health insurance, you could find awesome doctors, negotiate your bills, fund those bills through a peer-to-peer funding platform, all for less. Would you do it? I would, and I'm doing it right now. So why don't you go to joincrowdhealth.com? You can use promo code GreenCandle when you join the team here, and you could sign up today, where you could get 3 months if you use promo code GreenCandle at $99, folks. 99 cold hard ones. And that'll help you get started where you can have your health. You don't have to wait until the end of the year next year to meet your deductible, do all these crazy things, negotiate with doctors. You don't have to worry about that headache. Crowd Health will do it all for you, and they'll help you find the health care that you need. And I think that this is great timing, because I just dropped one of, if not my favorite, interviews that I've ever done with Jack Cruz. He is an absolute savage. Absolute savage. Can't even tell you enough about this guy. But he's got great theories about what is going on in the world, all the things that the health system has corrupted. So not only can you get out of the fiat system, you can figure out the ways that the fiat system has been corrupting you and corrupting your health. So I would check it out. It's right here. You can go there on the home screen, or in the latest one. So go ahead and check that out as soon as we get off of here. So I appreciate you guys joining me on this glorious Saturday. Why don't you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and then jump on over to the Jack Cruz interview, because it's an absolute banger, and I don't want to hold you from it any longer. So thank you guys all for joining me, and see you guys at the next one.